This is the Dr. Reverend Jelly Roll with headlines and punchlines for Thursday, August 13th, 2026, the 571st day of the Sex Offender Administration. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt, age 28, will leave the administration at the end of the month to spend more time with her family. She knew it was time to leave once she got used to Trump's smell. 5 17-year-old boys died when their vehicle went off a cliff in Colorado and crashed. Driver, front seat passenger, and a third occupant were wearing their seatbelts, while the 2 other occupants were not and were ejected from the vehicle. The Trump administration states that this is further proof that seatbelts do not work. U.S. District Judge Indira Talwani on Tuesday blocked the U.S. Postal Service from implementing part of Donald Trump's executive order that aims to tighten rules for mail-in voting ahead of the November elections. Judge Talwani ruled in favor of the League of Women Voters. Trump said it's bad enough that women vote, but do they have to have a league of their own? The Trump administration is set to spend at least $900 million for construction projects on the White House grounds. Instead of securing money directly from Congress, the administration has gathered funds from other agencies and private donors and directed them to an account that holds a few $1,000,000 for routine maintenance of the White House. Are you telling me that Donald Trump is hiding, laundering, and stealing government tax dollars? Shocked, I tell you, shocked. Donald Trump was sued Wednesday over a new service for his social media platform, Truth Social, that charges subscribers up to $100,000 a month for faster access to his market-moving post. Trump has more scams than a Nigerian prince and fewer ethics. This has been a Dr. Reverend Jelly Roll with headlines and punchlines for Thursday, August 13th, 2026, the 571st day of the Sex Offender Administration. Join me live at the Church of Last Resort, Sunday mornings at 9 a.m. Eastern Time on MindDog TV. Viva the Revolution!
The opinions expressed on this program are those of the host. The opinions expressed on this program are those of the host or guest and should not be interpreted as statement of fact. Independent fact-checking and corrections are encouraged.
Can we get a cup of coffee in here, please?
Damn good coffee and hot.
My dog is your mind's best friend.
My dog is your mind's best friend.
My dog is your mind's best friend.
Wake up, America. You've got a dog that needs walking. That's right, sunshine. Just put on a big pot of strong coffee and get ready to type your little hate mail with your opinions about kumbaya and flat earth insanity. Stand-up comedy? You want stand-up comedy? Well, we've got sit-down comedy. It's time for Coffee with a Dog. You make me laugh.
All right. Let's break it down. There we go. Good morning. Welcome to Coffee with the Dog, Thursday Nomad Edition. I'm G.D. Fenderson. It is August 13th, 2026, as the Reverend would say, what the Reverend did say. If all goes well, and it won't. If all goes well, our guest today will be defense intelligence author, Dr. Mark Silinsky. Let's get that in there. Dr. Mark Silinsky of the Kensington security consulting firm. He's scheduled for hour 1, so I'm told, but also was told he was scheduled for hour 2. So I'm going to pretend he's scheduled for hour 1 and not start the stuff that I have scheduled for hour 2, which is GD explains his jokes. Now, if he doesn't show up in hour 1, then I'll move that up, and then I won't have anything to talk about in hour 2. So there we have that. Last night, obviously, last night was our trivia night. My wife and a few of our friends hang out at a place that I'm not going to say the name of because I'm not performing there. If I was performing there, I'd say the name. Like last time when I was performing there, I said the name. I'm not going to say the name now. We go there and we play Family Feud trivia, and it was a rough night. We kind of got our asses handed to us. Well, it's not just us. It's not personal. I mean, everybody there is there to play and win and have fun in that order. I mean, there's some people that you can just tell aren't even really trying. You know, when you get to the point where, Heavy Cav, welcome. Heavy Cav is making reference to the Reverend show on Sunday. He says, pleased to meet you. Hope you guessed my name. And actually, I don't really have to because when you do a comment like that, it tells me your name right at the top there. On Sunday, the Reverend's going to talk and looking at the lyrics to Sympathy for the Devil by the Rolling Stones. That's on Sunday. But that's 2 days or 3 days away. I got to get through today first. So last night, we kind of got our asses handed to us. Well, as I was saying, but not everybody there is there to win. Some people there, like I said, they're not even trying. Okay, the most points you can get at the end of the game is 70 points. And that's if you get every single answer, the best answer every time, you can get 70 points. So by the end of the first half, you can have 30 points is the most you can have. Usually people have between, let's say, I'm going to say 20 and 25. I think it's about average. But then you get people with like 12 points, 9 points, 9 out of 30, that is, not just 9 out of 30 points. They're not even trying. I mean, if somebody says to you, 100 men were surveyed and they want to know what's the sign for, I can't remember the actual wording, but they said 100 men were surveyed and they were asked what tells them that a woman is high maintenance or something like that. So in other words, you meet a woman and you take one look at her and you say, oh, that's high maintenance. Okay. That's, no, I think number one answer was clothes. Number two, well, the top answer was clothes. I think that the one under that, what it may have been, I think was hair. And then the one under that was jewelry. I don't remember the two under that. One probably may have been nails and something else. I can't remember. And, but people to get a 0 in there, I don't know. Like I said, there's just the questions, some of the questions are kind of difficult, but the point I'm trying to make is when everybody else at the end of half is like, 20 points, 19 points, like I said, 29 points. I think one team had 29 points, and the best you can do is 30. And then your team comes up with like 9 points. That's not trying. That's somebody drinking and just checking. It's like taking a test in school and it's multiple choice. You just go down and go D, 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 D for the whole thing. And D's not even one of the options. Your options are 1, 2, 3, and 4, and they've chosen D every single time. But so those ones aren't there. But I go there to have fun, but to win. And that's because I'm competitive by nature. I try not to be because my competitive side is very nasty. It's like I when I really want to win, I don't care who I hurt. So I have to sit with people who I care about. So it's You wouldn't know that to look at my face. It's not look like the face of a person who's ruthless when he's competing. But on the inside, I'm a ruthless little bastard. and I've been like that since I was little. It may have been the fact that I was the youngest and I was always fighting back against something or for something or with something or by something. Good morning, Ann in Maricopa County. We have a caller from Maricopa County, Ann Dillon. Good morning, Ann. Like I said, I'm very competitive, and I try not to show it because, like I said, my competitive side is a very ugly side. If you've ever seen me play sports, and probably you haven't, because I haven't played sports in let's see, I'm 66. I haven't played sports in like 26 years. Whenever it was, whenever I injured my knee, I think that was in 2012. I could be wrong. Let me see, yeah, it was probably about 2012 that I injured my knee. And that was the last time I played sports. I had got a middle knee put in, and that was it. But up until then, I was ruthless. I was, but I wasn't mean. I didn't cheat. I'm not a cheater. I abhor cheaters. I think if you can't win straight up without cheating, then you're a worthless piece of shit who shouldn't be competing. And that's in politics or anything. If you have to cheat, you shouldn't be competing. But that's just me. I have that moral thing. I'm not going to cheat. I'll bend the fuck out of a rule when I'm playing sports. I'll bend the rules. Oh yeah. Like when I played football, I was a defensive end, and if I was guarding a receiver, we couldn't hit him after 5 yards. And usually what happens is when you're playing football, you would hit them right away or, not hit them at all. But I would I would back up and let them get to like 4.5 yards so they think I'm not going to hit them. And I would just lay them out. I would just bam, just lay them out. And then and if I knocked them down, then I would go for the other receiver. If I didn't knock him down, I'd hit him again. I'd keep hitting him as long as it was legal. I kept hitting him. Make them think 4 or 5 times before they caught a ball. So, so the point is, I am competitive, and I know I'm competitive, but I try not to be braggadocious about it. I try not to be like in your face or anything like that. I try to be a gracious winner. Or a gracious loser on the outside. And right now my wife is in the other room. She's hearing all this and she's taking notes. She goes, oh, I didn't know that I knew he was competitive, but I didn't know on the inside he was gloating, or on the inside he was, upset. She goes, I knew. So now, let's see here. My first guest, if he's on time, will be here in 13 minutes. But on the other part of this is that we are expecting painters to our home to come paint or finish a paint job that finished part of the bathroom that they did not finish. Or I'm going to say did not finish, to be polite. And the painter said they'd be here between 8 and 9. So I thought they'd be here already so that I wouldn't have to stop the show to talk to them or to let them in. And the guest is not in the room yet. They should be here shortly. They are not. So here's the plan, whole new plan. If at 9:15 the guest is not here, I don't want to assume, but I'm going to assume that he thinks that he believes he's in the second hour. And I'm going to act accordingly. And if that is the case, and our painters show up doing it for within that time, I am going to play to keep you company. Part of as much as part 3 as possible of my interview with Jen Lieberman from Dumb Way Past Funny. The entire episode is available on YouTube right now, and it's also available on Knob TV on Roku. So if you want to see the entire interview, go to Knob TV on Roku. And it will be under Done Way Past Funny. They have like several shows that they have. And I believe it will be in season 8 or season 9. It's the most recent season, whatever it is, 8 or 9 or 10, whatever season it is. I don't keep track of that stuff. I just produce the shows and crank them out there, and I don't worry about how they number them. But you can also see them on see that show on my YouTube channel if you want to see the entire episode. It's going to be on Spark TV, but I'm not exactly sure when because they are behind me in the schedule. But they show this. They show it. It's a different audience anyway. So, but you have multiple options. And so as of right now, my guest is either officially late or officially in the second hour. So this is what I'm going to do now. I'm going to change plans until the painters show up. Tuesday night, I had my workshop with Dylan Brody. And one of the things he did was he gave us some prompts so we could write jokes. Now, I lost all of my notes from that night. And when I say I lost them, I saved them and my computer saved it to the cloud. And right now I'm not talking to the cloud, so I can't get those notes back. I'm trying to log into the cloud because I don't like my stuff on the cloud. I like having access to it for instances like this, when it says you can't get to the cloud. So I don't remember all of the jokes I wrote for that night, but there was 3 prompts that he gave us. One prompt was, let's see, he says, he was a man of means. Okay, that was it. He was a man of means. That was the prompt. So I think at some point, yeah. So that's supposed to be your punchline or your capstone in these jokes. That's one of them. The other one was he died what he was doing, or they died doing what they loved. That's right. They died doing what they loved. That was the second prompt. And the third prompt was, let's see, man of means, died doing what they love, and getting there is half the fun. Getting there is half the fun. And so now I remember something. I couldn't remember the punchline for this one little thing I did, and now I remember it now. Okay, so this is the best I can remember from Tuesday night. The first one is, my father was average looking, average height, average intelligence, a man of means. Actually, that's very funny. If you're a math student, that's very funny. And if you're not a math student, well, it's still funny. You just aren't a math student. The other one that I can remember is my ex-wife died. Let me try this again. My ex-wife died doing what she loved. The neighbor. He took the one black job this American didn't want to do. I thank him for his service. He kept my ex-wife, and I kept his lawnmower. I'd rather be cutting the grass than trimming her bush anyway. My nickname for her bush was Sheep Laurel. Now, I wrote that joke for my 2 botanist friends. If they are here tonight, and apparently they're not, because if they were here, you'd have heard 2 people laugh at that joke as opposed to the absolute silence that we got right now. Well, they say that getting there is half the fun. Just knowing that it's my ex-wife's funeral, that's enough fun. That's all the fun I need. That's all I can remember from Tuesday night. And so there were other things. There was like 3 pages of notes, and I can't remember them. Gosh. And what really annoys me is that there was 3 weeks worth of notes in there to me, because some of them were stuff that I was supposed to incorporate in my next show. And it's gone unless I can get to the cloud, and it's in the cloud. So I'm kind of bummed by that, because my next show is going to use that stuff. I was working on stuff like that. Ugh. Okay. A little while ago, last week, I played. I was doing some clips. I don't have any clips this week. But I'm going to do some. I'll show you. Well, you'll see. Last week, because I'm trying not to get any copyright strikes, and even though I own a lot of the material, even though I own all of my material, the stuff that I put on YouTube, wherever, for some reason, YouTube does not see me as the owner. They see my page as the owner. You understand what I'm saying? So instead of like, I'm GD Fenderson, this is my material, it belongs to GD Fenderson's page. And you're not the owner, even if you are GD Fenderson and you put it on that page and it's your page. I don't know how that works. Don't know why. Okay. Have wrote, had to explain the difference between mean and median yesterday. My son learning stats. Oh, he's learning statistics. I love statistics. Well, Kevin, what did you think of my man of means joke? That's telling me that you had to explain mean and median. But what did you think of my little joke? Sure. I didn't say I laughed, so I'm assuming he just said, "Oh, okay, no biggie." So to avoid copyright. Oh, okay, guys. The painters are here, so I'm going to start the interview with Jennifer, and enjoy. What's up? What's up? It's time for Done Way Past Funny with your host, GD Fenderson. Join us as we discuss the art, science, and business of comedy with comedians and comedian adjacent. With this episode's guest, Jennifer Lieberman. It's time to get down and get dope with Done Way Past Funny. Hi, I'm GD Fenderson, certified forensic humorist and host of Done Way Past Funny. This is the conclusion of our interview with comedian, actress, writer, producer, and author Jennifer Lieberman. Enjoy. Now, the independent theater production for the 21st century, I'm assuming that you're saying the 21st century because the things, not that the craft itself has changed. The art is still the art. The disciplines are still the discipline, and the rules are still the rules. But now we have different technologies that we have to deal with. Is that why it's for the 21st century?
Yeah, that's part of it. The other part of it is because when I was teaching this class at a university, I was Googling to try and find what resources were out there, to recommend some books, and different resources. And also I wanted to know for my own teaching, like if there were other ideas out there. And the last book published on theater production, there are of course, there are books about acting and directing and, stagecraft. The last book about production was published in 1990. And I was like, well, things have changed. Yes. And yes, of course, technology, in the sense, like, if you don't have a social media page and you're not posting video, behind the scenes video, rehearsals video, gags with the actors video, like now that's part of your marketing plan and that has to be implemented. So having a designated 1 or 2 people at rehearsals, everybody's got a camera, everybody has a phone, everybody has a camera on their phone. So designating a good 5 to 10 minutes every single rehearsal, possibly during the breaks, where you're shooting some of that stuff, because you need to be posting content almost every day for a few months in order to get those butts in those seats. So that's one of the major things. And then also using AI, which, it's like, don't shoot the messenger. But for a low budget theater production where you're going to be netting $0, you're going to be lucky to break even. Well, maybe AI will do your poster. Maybe AI will make some original music for you. Maybe AI will do some of the things that if you didn't have AI do it, there would be no show. Like I'm not big on AI taking jobs away. And if you're a big Broadway show and you're making millions and you're spending millions, like, go fuck yourself if you're not going to hire a graphic designer or an artist to do your artwork. But, if you're barely scraping 10 grand together to do, like a 16 show performance for a month in June, you know what I mean? Like,
that may never run again.
Pardon?
I said, and it may never run again.
And it may never run again. Exactly. Or like having AI create some images that you're going to use on the projector because you don't have money to hire a carpenter and build sets and build, and hire a set designer that's going to cost you thousands of dollars, and then carpenters, and then the wood and the flats and the paint and you don't have that. You don't have that ability. So you're going to have AI generate some images and it's just going to be projected onto the back wall. Yes, you're going to do that. And these are things that we weren't discussing in the 90s or the 70s or the 50s or, when the Greeks were doing their plays. You know what I mean? So there are all these other elements.
Back then when the Greeks were doing it, they called it Aristotle intelligence. It was.
Yes, exactly.
That was their AI. Sorry.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm back. Hopefully that was a good place to stop. And I thank you. I did not realize that I had my mic was hot. Well, at least you know that there was really a painter here. I'm not making stuff up. And he's here. He's getting things started. And if he needs me, I'll pop that interview right back in there because why these things are happening on Thursdays when I don't have Matt to cover for me. I have no idea. Well, this one, I have no idea. I mean, I did schedule them, but they said this is what was available. So, all right. So as I was saying, because I cannot play the music, the song parodies that on the show without getting a copyright strike, it occurred to me last week when I was playing the introductions. Actually, a couple weeks ago, I started playing the introductions to the songs and not the songs themselves. But I can read you the lyrics to the songs like they're poetry. I mean, the whole point of me doing the song parody is that they're supposed to be funny, right? I mean, if it's not funny, then it's not a parody. So the first thing I'm going to do is let's get this straight here. Let's look here. All right. Just about everything that I'm going to read can be found on my website, sogdfunny.com. If you go to the menu, there's a little page. There's a section called Karaoke Songbook. And if you go to Karaoke Songbook, just about every song that I do is listed there. If you go to Karaoke Songbook, it opens it up. There's a table of contents. As a matter of fact, let me read this. It says right here, how to use the Karaoke Songbook. How to use G.D. Fenderson's Karaoke Songbook, Parody Songbook. Hi, I'm G.D. Fenderson, certified forensic humorist at large, but I'm losing weight. If you're like me, you love to sing, but no one wants to hear you sing, especially songs that they like. Like you are going to somehow ruin their favorite song. I know, the nerve of some people. My solution was to write my own words so that I wouldn't be ruining their song and maybe they will get a good laugh. But be careful. Some of these songs have a social or political message which could result in a less than desirable response. But if you sing like me, you can't sing like me. You are going to get a less than desirable response anyway. So what the hell? Now we've made it really easy to find the song that you want to sing. They are listed alphabetically under the name of the song that you should sing it to. For example, if you want to sing Surrender, which is our version of the lyrics, you look up Surrender because that is the music that you will sing it to. Okay, so now I guess I'll start taking some of these in order. Yeah, until I get to, I'm gonna skip over the ones that if I remember the ones that are political, I will skip over the political ones. Yeah, I'll skip over the ones with the political leanings. Now, the first one listed is 500 Miles. That's probably one of the first songs I did. It's not the first one I did live, I don't think, but it is the first one I recorded live. The first one I did live, if I remember correctly, was Rio. And that I did that one live because it was the Olympics. The Olympics were in Rio, and I could not resist writing a song. So that's what I'm going to do today. I'm going to talk about that one first. But I've got two versions of Rio. See, that's the problem. And that version I no longer have. I don't know where that one is. I can see if I can find it, because I didn't even think about that. Today's the 13th. Right. Okay. That's a good question. I don't know if I can find that one. I'll if I can find it later on, I will. I'll look later. I'm not going to look now. But the first Rio that I did was about the Olympics, and I was so determined. I was so certain that there would be like a ton of people writing parodies for Rio because the Olympics were in Rio. I said, okay, to get this, I wrote it. I learned it as fast as I could, and then I performed it live with an acoustic guitar. I wasn't even taking my amplifier out with me then. I was just taking out my acoustic guitar. And now I know I have recordings of it. I do have recordings of it, and they're pretty bad. That's why you will never see me show them anywhere ever again. I won't show them. They're that bad. And they're mainly because, now when I say bad, the songs are funny, people laughed. But the reason why it was bad is because it's Rio on an acoustic guitar. And if you know anything about the song Rio, there's like this badass little bass hook, boom 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 boom, you know, something like that. And then the guitar goes like that. And it's like I said, it's a pretty decent jam. I like it. It's fun to play. But when you got an acoustic guitar, you just got you're plucking the bass line, and then you got the guitar chord on the acoustic guitar, plink, plink. So that's why I don't, do that one on acoustic. That's why I don't do it live, period. Because then I tried to do it live on electric, and it still doesn't work. So I did it about the Olympics. And then when the Olympics was over, I thought to myself, I spent a month learning all of these parts, the bass line, the chords, and singing. I'm not going to sit here and let it go to waste. So I wrote another version of Rio, and that's the one that's in the songbook, and it's called Trio. And Trio was basically a take on it's on page 50. Page 50 of the songbook. Rio is a take on the first time I tried to have a three-way with two young ladies, and it was awful. It was terrible. I say terrible. And I say first time. I never tried it again. But I always say first time sounds like there's potential. I was young. I was in my 20s, And so that's what this song is about. And so the parody is called Trio. Yeah, I'm going to read the lyrics. I guess a tempo, like it would be sung. Yeah. So this is this Trio. I've seen her in the store, working the produce aisle. Her eyes, her legs, her hair, her you know you want it smile. Her friend is hot too, in her apron and vest, and it doesn't matter how she's dressed. Their tags say, "May I serve you?" and the answer is hell yes. How about a trio, a threesome if you please? I don't mind begging, I look good upon my knees. A good menage a trois is what this party needs. Let us get out of here and into my fantasy. Nude bodies on the beach, limbs flailing everywhere. I'm trying to find a hole. There's something cumbersome about 3 people instead of 2. I was convinced that I'd know just what to do. Is this a trio? A threesome, if you please. Be careful what you ask for when you're on your knees. A good menage a trois is what this party needs. Sorry, it should be a good menage a trois is what this party needs. Reality is not as cool as fantasy. Hey, confusion everywhere. I could use a hand right now. There's too many thighs, I've shriveled in size. Don't think that I'll survive, or why did I take a chance on 2 girls at once? I thought a threesome would be so bitchin', but I'm tense and nervous. Will I ever stop twitching? Is this a trio? A threesome, if you please? Be careful what you ask for when you're down upon your knees. A good menage a trois is what this party needs. Reality is not as cool. Oh, also, I'm sorry, it says, let's get out of here and into my fantasy. And then there's the guitar solo and the imagery that goes with that. It's kind of neat. On the video, it's kind of fun. I have a sax solo by the Blue Eminem who plays sax. Yeah. So it's a nice little guitar solo with the bass solo and stuff like that. Oh, is it a big guitar solo? No, it's just a bass riff. Yeah, it's like a bass solo and guitar stuff. Now this is the last verse. I had my trio, a disaster if you please. Having 2 girls at once is more. Try it again. I had my trio, a disaster if you please. Having 2 girls at once is one more than I need. If I try this again, kick me between my knees. It was a waste of time and a waste of my seed. I blew my trio. Yeah, this may be my last chance. My threesome didn't turn out as nicely as I planned. I think that I will stick with traditional romance. Next time I want a trio, I will use 2 hands. And then it goes doot 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 do 2, doot 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 do 2, doot 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 do 2, doot 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 do 2. Okay, there. I don't know if it was worth it enough. I'm filling time, right? Thank you, Kareem. I love more viewers, sure. More AI viewers, can't wait. Yes. Love AI viewers. They're my favorite viewers. The AI ones, sure. All right. Let's try this one. This is okay. So that was the first song I learned to play for the to perform that I performed as a parody, Rio. This video, I think I play every so often, around every Christmas. This is Holidays Are Getting You Down. And this is actually probably the most popular one. Oddly enough, I think it's the most popular one that I have, probably because it's a Christmas song. Holiday is called. It's done to the tune of Santa Claus is Coming to Town. It's on page 35 of the karaoke songbook if you're following along. Okay. Holidays are getting you down. It feels better to shout. It feels better to cry. You need a stiff drink and you want to go hide. The holidays are getting you down. You're eating strange foods that give you a bug and the rooty toot toots in your tummy tum tum. The holidays are getting you down. It started in October, right after Halloween. The music goes through New Year's Day and every hour in between. They're making you pissed, blood pressure sky high. Feels like you live at Walmart or Best Buy's. The holidays are getting you down. You started a list of family and friends. Your list is still growing and the debt never ends. The holidays are getting you down. Charities are begging, please help us make our goal. They act like you can pull more cash out each of your holes. It feels better to shout. It feels better to cry. You need a stiff drink and you want to get high. The holidays are getting you down. The holidays are getting you down. The holidays are getting you down. Thank you. By Henry Gibson. I don't know which, I think I prefer the videos now because I can't play the music. That's half the fun. I thought this would be different, and it is different. I don't know if it's better. Different isn't always better. I just thought it'd be interesting, so we'll see. Well, we'll see what happens in the chat room because that's the only way I know. You know, I can't tell by the viewership, but people come and goes, and I can't tell. But I can tell by the chat room. Oh, okay. Slaptail says, damn, play my clip and explain my comedy. Bored as fuck. Okay. Oh, Marcus here. Okay. Dr. Mark Silinsky he's in the green room. And once he gets set up, Dr. Silinsky, if you can hear me, give me a thumbs up or something. Okay. When you're ready to be brought on, just let me know. Wave your hand or something when you're ready to be brought in, and I will introduce you. I can't hear you yet because you're not in the room. So, okay. So just wave your hand when you're ready to come in. I'll read your introduction and you just let me know when you're ready to come in. Okay. Dr. Mark Silinsky of Kensington Security Consulting, a firm that brings education to national security. Mark was a counterintelligence and counterterrorism analyst in the Department of Defense for 40 years. He graduated Phi Beta Kappa from the University of Southern California, earned a master's degree in international relations under the supervision of Sir Michael Howard, and received a Ph.D. from Tulane University. He's the author of 5 books on international relations, the last of which is Cauldron of Terror. Now, if you go to his website, there's a series of podcasts that he does about terrorism. You can check them out. Most of them are around 6 minutes long or so. I checked out a few of them myself. So please welcome to the show, Dr. Mark Silinsky.
Thank you. It's great to be here. Absolutely great.
I don't hear you, Dr. Mark. Are you on mute? No, it doesn't say you're muted. Let's try this.
Let's see.
Okay.
Wow.
Waiting for Dr. Silinsky to get his. I still don't hear you.
All right. I'm going.
You can hear me though, so it's just we'll give it a second or two. While we're waiting. Yes. So while we're waiting for him to get, once he gets his mic working, he's just talking. I'll know that it's working.
No.
No.
Wait, what's that?
No, I
remove. I
don't want to. I would start playing one of his podcasts, but I don't want to get a strike yet. Even though we're interviewing.
No, I don't know how to do this.
Just a second here.
Nope, I don't know how to.
I'm trying to see if there's. I'm not even here myself on it. And wow. Okay, let's try this.
Yeah.
Dr. Mark, if you don't mind, try exiting the room and coming back in and see if that makes a difference. Just pop out,
Sure.
And then log back in, and we'll see
Sure.
if that makes a difference.
All right. Okay.
And meantime, I'm going to see if I can hear what's going on. I'm just double checking mine to make sure there's nothing I can do. Yeah, because Heavy Kev says he could hear Mark. I couldn't hear Mark. All right. Well, unfortunately, I need to hear him so I can hear his answers. Damn. Let's see. Let's see. I'm looking to see if I can. All right. I'm looking for the replay to see if I can hear him. I don't. Okay. All right. I'll wait till he gets back in. Now, it could be just because everything that I'm trying here on StreamYard is. Let's see here. There is. Huh. Huh. Okay. So I'm sorry. I'm trying to find the spot where he comes in, and I can't find it at all. All right. All right. Well, he's back in, and I'll see if that's resolved the issue. Let's bring him in.
Let's see.
I can hear you now.
Okay, wait here. How can you
Yes.
hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me? All right, 1 second.
Yes,
All
I
right.
can.
That's on that one. What is this better?
Yeah, that's fine.
Great.
That's fine. Yes.
Okay. Well, it looks like it's going to work.
Yeah, good. Yeah, that's excellent. Thank you. I appreciate you being here.
My pleasure. My absolute pleasure.
So let me greet you properly. Assalamu alaikum.
All right.
I'm
with you.
So let's talk. Well, where do you want to start? We can start with your most recent book, or you can tell us about what you've been up to recently. Let's talk about your most recent book.
Sure.
Was it Cauldron?
Yeah, it's called Cauldron of Terror. Shamelessly promoted here. Cauldron of Terror. Hamas, Israel, and the World, 500 Days in Gaza. And yeah, the book is about really just that. It really starts from the Israeli counterinsurgency strategy from before the creation of Israel in 1948. And then it goes to dealing with the birth of Hamas. And really as a prelude to that, I talk about the ideas on which Hamas is moored. This would be the Islamic Brotherhood or the Ikhwan. Talk about its foundation really in the 70s, but really mostly in the 80s is where it begins to have some purchase and then becomes elected. And what Hamas is, its value systems, its agenda, its goals. I then go into the attack itself, and I spend some detail on there. It really shook much of the world. So I talk about the attack and the Israeli response. I try to incorporate this whole thing into the world, the issues that Israel is facing with the world, the activities on campus. I talk about the Green-Red Alliance. That is the alliance between Muslims and really Muslim leaders. I call them Islamo-fascists, and that's the book I'm working on now. I call it Islamo-fascism, Islamo-fascists and the international left. It's a very strange alliance if you think about it. Really very strange bedfellows.
I don't know if it's that strange of an alliance, only because, or at least in my mind, because I'm more of a centrist, but in my mind, I separate the Israeli government from the Israeli people, just like I separate the government or Hamas from the Muslims. As a matter of fact, I don't even see the Muslims as a collective, because as far as Islam goes, if I remember correctly, there are basically three different sects of Islam, depending on which line from Muhammad they want to follow. You know, it was like, because I think it was when Muhammad passed, it was like three people each fighting for control. And so
you're right.
And so I don't look at Islam as a collective, because as far as I'm concerned, every religion, regardless of what their intention is, the way it manifests seems to be not good for, once power is involved, it just seems like a power grab. No matter what religion, there's always some kind of power grab, and it's used to manipulate the people. So that's why I don't use that little blanket thing, and I separate the government and the ruling class from the followers. So, and
okay,
go ahead.
Would you like me to respond to that?
Sure,
first of all, a lot of people agree with you. I mean, your view on there is common, and it's shared by many people who understand it. Let's take a look at that. You're absolutely right about one thing. This was an issue of succession, and basically the followers of Muhammad's father-in-law, Abu Bakr, said, this is the way we're going to select the leader of the Islamic community, the caliph. We're going to do it by consensus and authority. And this is a very strong theme in Sunni Islam. We're going to get together and we'll decide who is the most capable man for doing that and who is the most deserving. The other side, the Shia, said, no, this is going to be more or less bloodlines, and you have to have some bloodlines. And we think that the successor should be his cousin and his son-in-law, Ali. Now, you could say it's kind of a minute thing that divides the two people, but I use the 80% rule, that is Protestants and Catholics have much more in common than they have dividing them. And yet we have the wars of religion that collapsed a good chunk of Europe for, I don't know, over 100 years. So even though there seems to be to the outsiders, a trivial difference, for those inside the religion, it could be very profound and enduring. So you have that, but there is something too, that there are different kinds of Muslims. You can't throw them together. Okay, a counter argument to that is to concede that, yeah, there are different levels of understanding and fervor and practice. There are not a lot of different ways of looking at Islam. I'm not a Christian. I have a lot of respect for the religion. It seems to me that Protestants in particular can have a personal and deep relationship with God. And that was one of the fundamental tenets of Protestant religions, and Martin Luther on down. Catholics is a little bit different. You really don't have that in Islam in either school. Sufi would be the third school to which you referred. It's really not a school. It's much more how shall I say, more spiritual and less rigid. So I would agree with you in many cases, but Islam is not how we in the West interpret it. It is how they interpret it.
Yes,
And there is not strains of liberalism that I can see in either Shia, Sunni, or Sufi. Sufi maybe a little bit more. So that's my answer.
No, because I treat all religions pretty much the same way. I view them all the same. When they work very well for the people, and when they don't work, they are very manipulative and very self-serving. And for my money, most of the time it's not working. At least from the top down, it's not working. Again, if you find comfort in it, quote, God bless you, unquote, you can find comfort in it. But when I look at, even with our own government, we are not supposed to be a Christian nation.
Right.
But they're trying real hard to make it an American version of a caliphate. This is the way we want you to practice your Christianity. And so, are there parallels? I mean, do you see parallels between what's happening in this country and what's happening with the other, let's say, extremist religions? Not just because it's not just there. It's not just
Let me
Islam.
answer that.
Sure.
A lot of people agree with you that there are commonalities and common threads of humanity between religions. And that as practiced, as intended to be practiced, religions maybe focus on a person's relationship with God. One thing that is stressed by many Muslim leaders when they cast their religion to Westerners in particular is that we are all Abrahamic or Mosaic faiths. And that is that in Christianity, Judaism, and Islam, you have Moses as a prophet. And you don't have Jesus for Jews, but you also have Abraham as central figures there in that. An argument against that is taking Islam as the cotton candy approach, that it is sweet and that it is fluffy, but doesn't have much substance. Let me make what I believe is a crucial difference.
Sure.
In Christianity, I believe it was Jesus in Matthew someplace, your audience might know, said, render unto Caesar that which is Caesar's, render unto God that which is God's. And the meaning of that, of course, is that for the secular and for the laws and for ruling of the state, you have a secular leader. But when it comes to issues of God and humanity and and woman's relationship to God, then you have religion involved there. Judaism, it's a little bit different. You have nothing like that in Islam whatsoever. That is this: you have no separation between church and state. Right. A man or a woman lives his life as a Muslim. Sharia or Islamic law guides all aspects of living. Now, to acknowledge some things that you said are absolutely true, and that is this. Wait a minute. It may be written in the scripts that way, the liturgy, the holy text, and may be interpreted by sources of authority in Islam. But many people, you have the Muslims down the block. Hey, I didn't even know if they were Muslim until they told me. They go to high school with our kids, or on the football team, the daughters in the Jane Austen Society. Okay, and that is the case, that you have many who are assimilated. I don't know about you, but sometimes I remember at work, I didn't know what people's religion were until there was a big fight about it once, and I just got out of the way. Right? And you do have a lot of Muslims like that too. But to live as a Muslim is to live with a certain set of ideas and practices, and some of them concern me. And I think we could look to Europe, where I do not believe integration is working.
I believe it. I believe it's troubled now. I've never been to Europe, and I'm not an authority in Europe. I have friends in Europe. It's like saying I have black friends. No, I have friends in Europe, but and and friends who like grew up and lived there, and then friends who migrated from the U.S. to the UK and stuff like that. So I'm not an authority by any means, but I was under the impression that up until recently, assimilation seemed to be working. Up until, like, in Germany, what's it called? The new extremist group, the one that replaced the Nazis. Can't remember.
Okay, that's open. That'd be the AFD,
right, AFD. I was going to say ADF, AFD. Right.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay,
so
that.
Go.
I'm sorry.
No, you go. You go. Go ahead.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, you bring up some things. First of all, many people do agree that it is a neo-Nazi, or that it has similarities to fascism of some kind. Many people don't. I don't see that there. The leader, Alice Weidel, now is picking up a lot of support. I don't see that in any way as being successful. If the requirement is that you have to adapt to the norms of an existing society, then I don't think it has. The idea in the 1960s, when we had the Great Society, we looked at the Black Americans and we said, listen, we are going to bring into the mainstream.
Which era was that you said we had the Great
Let's
Society?
Go back to the United States in the 1960s. What were we doing with blacks after blacks have been treated
terrible
very
things?
Poorly?
Yeah,
we wanted to bring blacks into the mainstream of American society, and what we were going to do is we were going to say, okay, we're going to give you opportunities that you didn't have before. But we
have different remembrances of that.
Right, okay, then let me put that to the side. Let me put that to the side. I just use that for a point of illustration, and you're not agreed to that.
Well, yeah, because they were never the black people were never intended for black people to integrate into society. Otherwise, they would have said, we want you to read. That's because that's part of how society gets along, the road signs and stuff like that, reading and understanding laws. That's how you integrate. You don't integrate by keeping them in the dark. So they never intended for black people to be integrated into society. They intended on black people to be subservient and build the society, not to integrate into it.
So are you saying that was Lyndon Johnson's intention of the Great Society, and is that what your argument is?
No, I'm just saying it was never intended for black people. Now, Lyndon Johnson was made to do that. It's not like he wanted to do that. That was a political move.
Well, a lot of people agree with you there, too. I have to tell you, particularly with Lyndon Johnson, that he wanted to capture the black vote and not really give them a lot of opportunity. But let's move away from there, because that's not my field of expertise. I wanted to use that as an example, but you don't believe that that's a credible example. Okay. Let's take a look at the kind of means of integration. When we have in many societies, Britain, for example, was never really a nation of immigrants. Neither was Germany. Neither really was France. It wasn't. They had long historic roots. And when integration really became in the 1990s in Britain, and before that in Germany with the Turks, before that with the Algerians in France, there was hope that they would integrate to some extent, but I think they really haven't. Many of them become siloed in their own communities, and ironically, today's generation of Muslims in Europe is less integrated than their parents. So many of their parents came to escape the excesses of a religious fervor in the Middle East, but their children now have become radicalized. You have a lot of killings there, you have bullying, and above all, you have demands for Islamic law to supersede the laws of European countries. And really, that's what I mean by lack of integration.
But we have that in the U.S. with the Christian nationalists. I think I'm not defending what either side are doing. Not either side, I mean what they're doing in Europe or what they're doing in the U.S. But in Europe, to be a German was a bloodline thing. It was like you were from Deutschland, and so other cultures, I can almost understand that. But in the U.S., we were built in theory. The great experiment was we have a constitution, and the Constitution and devotion or allegiance to that Constitution was supposed to bind us. Not, and if you were born here, you have birthright citizenship, that kind of stuff. In Europe, so we would like the first place to try that, as far as I know, that say, okay, this is what it means to be an American.
Yes,
so
I agree.
The scales are kind of different. It's slightly different. But what the Christian nationalists are trying to do now is saying, yeah, we want here what they have in Europe. We want so.
Yeah, I'm concerned about I think you and I share some ideas here. I don't know what you would call them, but we do have some people, Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, and others, who bring a type of religion that I don't like at all. Yeah, we absolutely were. We do not have a state religion. We have freedom of religion. Part of it was George Washington, that for his faults of being a slave owner, that's true, brought a lot of greatness. And one of the first minorities were the Jews. And he said, we accept you. We don't tolerate you, but we accept you as being not different at all from the rest of us. One thing that we do fight against, and we have a thriving constitution for this, is to keep religion out of the workplace. In this, you can no longer say prayers since the 1960s in schools. Some people
I think you can say prayers. What it is they can't organize it. So if I'm in a class, if I'm in a class and they're about to give an exam, the final exam, I'd be damned if I'm not going to be praying. If I'm not look, and the teacher's not going to say, "Don't you pray before that exam?" But the teacher is not going to sit there and go, "Okay, we're about to have an exam. Let us pray." There's a difference.
In this country, we're fortunate to have a lot of people like you who see it that way. And they don't want to.
But that was the intention. But people, that's not the argument that they're presenting. They're saying, like, you can't pray in school. That's not true. They say you can't say Merry Christmas. That's not true. You can. Right. So they're the other side is they're creating a straw man for us to argue about instead of actually discuss the real issues.
Well, I think you and I agree. I mean, yeah. I don't think either of us want any kind of organized religion in this country. And we're fortunate that we have a constitution and we have many people like you who monitor the situation. And if anybody's forcing their religious, it's not so much opinions, but their religious policies and rules on us, we have recourse to challenge them. And I think we often do that very successfully. Now, what is going to happen in the future? Well, we have people like you, your audience, and like me who are very careful. And we do not want the encroachment. And that is for a reason why we should understand a challenge that large number of Muslims bring, because in Islam, you do not have that separation. You're seeing a huge issue. France is even further than we are. I don't think that the French government is anti-religion, let's say, but they are very worry of it, and they call laïcité, and that is you, for example, you may not wear hijabs that is the head covering to school, things like that, and that is under assault. In the United States, in Islam, there is no separation, and in Islam, Muslims are always the superior people. This is the Ummah. The Ummah is the collective of Muslims around the world. You have that in Shia, in Sunni, in Sufi, I don't know, but you have that as a key tenet on that. So I'm very concerned about this, about the Islamic encroachment in our daily lives. For example, in England, they have Sharia patrol. And what is this? These are people now in heavily dominated Muslim areas who make sure that women don't walk, let's say, immodestly, that people cannot carry alcohol. They try to force that. Part of this is testing the power that they have in those countries.
Now, how would that be different than, let's say, a community in New York or any place in the U.S., where, let's say, you have different sects of Judaism, and one of the sects is the Hasidim, the Hasidic Jews. And they are like, I would say, like, they're like ultra orthodox. I would think of it. So, and they have within their community, if I understand correctly, I feel bad because I had a rabbi and he died years ago and I never replaced him.
Well, I can be a rabbi. How's that? I'll be a rabbi for the show.
Okay, thank you.
I declare myself to be the rabbi of this show.
Thank you. But they had laws and they're organized. They had like I'm going to, for lack of a better word, a court system inside of their faith, inside of their religion. So even though like a divorce in the U.S. society is one thing, a divorce in Hasidism, in the Hasidic community, is something different.
And this is a very key point. I'm very glad you brought this up, and this will illustrate the difference here. If you go into, let's say, a marriage, and you agree to abide by, both parties agree to abide by the rules, let's say, of a rabbi, okay, you can do that. It's an arbitration, but Jewish law cannot, and I would fight intensely any efforts to make it supersede secular law. What I mean by this is I can be kosher in my house. I cannot force you to be kosher.
Right.
And there's no effort whatsoever to do that. Okay. My laws, as long as they are inferior to state, federal, and local laws, to secular laws, are just fine. But they cannot conflict with state laws. And they do not. The Hasidim really, they're as kind of a sect, and they dress a little bit funny sometimes, and people have fun with them. But this is the key. It's completely voluntary. People can leave or join anytime they like, and sometimes people do. As people, for example, in Catholicism can lose their faith. In Islam, it's very different. In Islam, if you leave Islam, the punishment is death. Now, do most Muslims believe that apostates or people who leave should be killed? My guess is that they don't.
I was about to ask you, is it a physical death, or is it like the Jehovah's Witnesses where you're just dead to them?
No, it is physically dead, corporeal.
Okay.
And they kill you.
And that's across all three sects, the Sufi, the Sunni, and the Shia?
In Sufi, and maybe not in Sufi. Sufi is that people have fun with it. They see it as spiritual. For Sufi, for example, people would want to convert. If you're a Muslim man and you want to marry a woman, she can convert. And that's fine. Judaism, Catholicism, the same thing. They call this, for example, a Sufi dove. That is, let's say, a woman who is very spiritual, doesn't really care, but does this because she loves her husband, and that's fine.
Right.
You have other elements of the Sufis that are spiritual, but if you know the term the thugs or the thuggies, they would go and they would strangle people with silk scarves. They were, by and large, a Sufi sect many years ago. But so the thing is this: once you are in by the way, in Muslim countries, about 53 of them, they have Sharia as written as the law of the land. They are Islamic countries, religiously and legally.
Yes.
And there are concerns in Europe that you're having Islamic law insinuate itself into the countries of those, into the mainstream of those countries. And there are plenty of examples for that. There are a lot of hearings. For example, Ted Cruz last week held hearings in Congress, in the Senate, about the Muslim Brotherhood, or the Ikhwan, and their infiltration into the United States. And that is an example of the concerns that you have among the Republicans. The Democrats did not show up for that. Good or bad.
I don't. They have their reasons for not wanting to show up, and I think if I were in politics, I'd be an independent. But I may not have shown up either, because quite often those cases, they're not trying to investigate anything. They're just trying to spew something. You know, make a point make little points for YouTube or something like that.
Yeah, we call that politics.
Yeah,
this rabbi is explaining that as politics. Yeah, you could do that. And they certainly did have an agenda. Republicans did have an agenda, but in the Senate, in the House, you would contest that, and you would have generally Republicans taking one side and the Democrats the other. So they could have been in a position where they could have challenged the speakers, or maybe have brought their own, as is the custom. So they had the opportunity.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what the reasoning is for, because if they didn't show up, then they probably got together and said, "We're not showing up, and this is why." And to be honest, as informed as I try to be, there's some things, even when I may have known at the time, I'm like, "Oh, I don't care anymore." But
well, this is it too. A lot of people
I'm saying, but my concern about those particular hearings, like what Ted Cruz would have, they would have a hearing about a Muslim brotherhood, but not about a Christian nationalist brotherhood, which in this country is a bigger threat because they are actually in elected office. The few Muslims that we have in elected office don't even have enough to create a caucus. There is no Muslim caucus that I'm aware of. They join other caucuses.
Okay, well, this rabbi blesses you for bringing that up because it's a very important thing. Right now, numerically, they do not really have a caucus. They don't right now have the numbers for that. They may have 4 or 5 million people. They do vote as a bloc. They will have caucuses. In Europe, they're building Islamic parties. Right now,
but Europe is slightly different than the U.S., is what I'm saying, because, again, Europe... like, I don't even think Germany had a constitution until like 1944 or something. I can't remember when Germany had their constitution, but it wasn't even still the same as our constitution. So there's a slight difference between the two. What goes on in Europe, I mean, believe me, it's not that it's isolation, because we trade with Europe, and if wrong people, when I say wrong people, I mean people who are not inclined to serve mankind. To me, if you're not inclined to serve all of mankind, you're the wrong people. But that's just me, and I'm willing to claim that and own it. So, but that's only for the sake of discussion when I say wrong people are right people.
Okay.
So if people in Europe, if Europe got together en masse and decided we don't want to be friends with the U.S. anymore, that would be a problem, because we are one world, we're a collective, and we need each other to get by, especially with the challenges that we face as a globe. So, yeah, I would like for people who appreciate the fact that there's a global problem to be in charge, but I don't vote in Europe.
Well, let me take your concerns. Let me see if I can do a little bit better as an example than I did on Lyndon Johnson. Let's just tease out the Somali situation. What you had is very quickly, maybe in 15 or 20 years, you had a large enough constituency of Somalis to come and to change very quickly the political dynamics of Minnesota. Minnesota, and
but
not only Minneapolis.
Were they invited in though? They were. Yes. Outside Minnesota, they had a labor problem, and they had a housing problem, in the sense that people didn't want to be there for whatever reasons, and so the Somalis were like invited in to say, look, they need a home and jobs. We need residents and workers. Hello, Somalis, welcome. So it wasn't like they invaded. It wasn't like an invasion. It was more like a come on in, and by most accounts, the Somalis weren't the problem. The Haitians weren't eating the dogs and cats. That was all stuff that was created by our, quote, unfortunately, our leadership, J.D. Vance, who decided to tell that lie, knowing he told the lie because he wanted to advance something else in the news. So
once again, a lot of people agree with that. Yeah. First of all, I don't. It was not an invasion. In Europe now, they have in Spain just a few days ago, you had some 60,000 Moroccans come into the country. I did a podcast, and I called it, a la your thing, an invitation or an invasion, question mark. Right. All right. But in this country, it is not a question mark. It is, as you just said, it was an invitation. Why were they brought over? I think partially that is correct. I think that many of the politicians there saw the Democratic politicians very cleverly, and nothing that I could see illegal about this, saw them as a constituency, and they do vote in blocks. That you can test out.
But if they're not citizens, they can't vote if they're not citizens. Well, maybe in some, okay, I should put it this way. I'm going to correct myself, because it's not that they can't vote. They cannot vote in federal elections. Depending on the jurisdiction you're in, you can vote in some of the smaller elections, like maybe maybe city council, because you're a resident, they want your input. And so, but you can't vote in federal elections. And
they want your vote.
I'm sorry?
They want your input, but they want your vote.
Yeah, they want you. Of course, everybody wants your vote. But the thing is they can't vote in federal elections. So for Trump and them to say that we're trying to stop them from voting illegally, no, they're not voting in federal elections. The actual illegal voting in this country by immigrants is under 0.5%. But so there's they have these solutions to problems that don't exist because they want control.
Well, once again, I think we agree. I think that they legally may not vote in federal elections. And I know there's a big dispute, and you're probably more well-versed in this than I am about how many illegal or undocumented migrants vote illegally in federal elections. I don't have the numbers there, but to support what you just said, that they vote in municipal elections. If they vote in municipal elections, and I don't know if they can vote in state elections. They can
that goes from jurisdiction to jurisdiction, because that's not the same in all 50 states.
Okay,
so
but
they have to look at Minnesota. Yeah.
In Minnesota, they still get a vote. If you are a local politician, you may not be as interested in federal elections. You may have federal aspirations, but you have local survival being elected, and you would therefore court that lobby. And really, that is what happened, too. Now, we are watching this whole mess about the vast fraud in Somalia unfold. It's not really looking good for a lot of people. I think Tim Walz now has admitted the problems there. Even Ilhan Omar is backing down a little bit, maybe saying that the accusations were more than being just racist, that they have substance. But this is what you have.
There's going to be corruption wherever there's money. The amount of money that was involved in that scam with the Somalians is less than one or two. There were scams by our federal government, by individuals in the federal government that dwarfed the amount of money that Somalians were stealing. And that's a group of people that they're after. But you have one or two individuals in Trump's administration who are scamming way more money than a whole group of people, and they're not going after them. See, I don't have a problem with going after the scammers. I don't have a problem with dispensing justice. Dispense it equally. And the Trump administration is not doing that. And they're making Somalian scapegoats for, something that they're all doing. I mean, I'm against the corruption, and I'm not apologizing for the corruption. What I'm saying is, don't punish a group of people more than you're going to punish one of your own.
Your reasoning there is being selective. In other words, if you're not looking, that law should be applied.
I'm not trying to be selective. I'm trying to be inclusive. Is what I'm trying to be inclusive, not selective.
Be inclusive,
Yeah, I'm trying to be inclusive.
If that is the case, then any kind of corruption or illegal activity in the Trump administration, you have my full support about investigating it, and many people do. You have Democrats, of course, are
with not much power. With the Democrats, they can investigate, they can call committees, but with the exception of some of the groups, they don't have any kind of subpoena power. So they can, and Trump has told his people, do not respond to Democrat subpoenas, and they can drag that out through the courts. Say, well, we're going to take you to court. You have to say, okay, fine, take me to court. And the court says, you have to honor the subpoena. And they go like, no, we're not going to honor the subpoena because the federal government, who should be investigating it, aren't going to investigate. Trump and them are not going to investigate their own. And I'm saying it now because they're the ones in power. If it's ever Democrats, if it's ever libertarians, if it's ever green people, they need to be able to investigate their own and clean house because they serve the people of this country and the Constitution. And when they get outside of that, they should all be punished, not just the Somalians for committing the same crimes that the white elite are doing in Washington. Punish them all the same.
I don't believe that white elites should be given any benefit at all for being white elites.
But they are. That's just it. They are, though, and that's my thing is I agree with you. They should not be, but they are, and it's not being talked about as much as, like I said, because they're in power. The Somalians, they're not making policy. They may be stealing money, but they're not. They may be able to vote for people to make policy, but they're not making policy. They're not giving their friends insider information on trading stocks to make millions of dollars. They're not part of that big grift. If these guys are all dealing in drugs, and the police are looking at them, the police will go after the White House people because they would be the distributors. They wouldn't be going after the Somalians who are just the drug users and pushers. You know what I'm saying?
Let me take the theme there, because
Okay.
I don't think for one moment that one cohort is above the law or should be given a specialized law. So
I agree. Yeah.
This rabbi agrees with you, and I bless you for saying that. But let's see if we can
Shalom.
focus a little bit on the concerns that I have about Islam.
Yeah.
Your idea, and we both agree to, is that no one group should be given privilege over another. A concern that I have, and you on your show, you may have come across this too, is a fear about openly discussing and challenging Islam. In Europe, it is.
I don't fear it. I'll mock it if necessary. It doesn't matter.
I
They're
think
all the same to me.
Well, okay, but on university campuses, there is an example here. I think there is that fear. I know, as being a PhD with my toes in academia, I certainly see this in academia, which I believe me is yet another podcast for you. You may have had people talking about the state of the university in your podcast. I think you'd enjoy talking to them. But let's focus then on the Islamic issues.
Sure.
You do have the Students for Justice in Palestine, Muslim Students Association, and other groups wielding a power not only to articulate their views, and you can do that too, but really of organizing demonstrations and comments, harassing people who dispute their views, and in some cases simply targeting and badgering and sometimes beating up Jews. That is a concern we have. I don't believe that if you, for example, had whites harassing blacks, go back to integration of the University of Alabama or Mississippi in the 1960s, we saw that as horrific. And President Eisenhower before that brought in the National Guard to force the integration in Little Rock, Arkansas. Okay. You saw this too. When I see signs almost similar to that, the taunting of blacks on university campuses in the South in the 60s, to what I see on university campuses today is horrifying. These are organized. They're not necessarily organic, though they may come by, but the Students for Justice in Palestine is leading the charge there, and they operate with leftist groups on campus. And I'm very concerned about that.
Yeah, some of them do, and I'm, again, some of the groups, because that particular group may be really, really far. I don't know if they're far right or far left, because I guess in their own culture they may be far right as far as Islam goes. But there are lesser extreme groups that are human rights, not just Palestinian but Jewish rights, and so they're Jewish people and Islamic people or Palestinian people together, working together, and those groups aren't getting the same amount of attention. They're saying, we see that it's the governments that are the problem. We as people, we have the same struggles. We both want to feed our kids. We want to be educated. We want to be able to learn and think freely and act freely. And so there are groups that are, go ahead.
You're absolutely right on one issue. I might challenge you on another. They do have those groups. One of them would be J Street, and that is a Jewish organization, very critical of Israel. They do partner with other organizations on campus. You have the Jewish Voice for Peace. My concern is this: to have any meaningful dialogue, you have to have both parties agree on a common goal, an agenda and a goal. If one party is the elimination of Israel and the other party is saying, well, we can have harmony because we have these universal interests. We all have human nature and that kind of, then you're not going to have any kind of meaningful conclusion.
Right.
There are in Islam something called, and your audience maybe have heard it too, you may have, is called taqiyya. Taqiyya is an important word. It's really Islamic deception. I am not suggesting that Jews and Christians are not sometimes deceptive. They don't lie. Absolutely not. But within the legal code of Islam, you have the requirement to deceive the non-believer when it furthers the interests of Islam. So
right.
that's why.
Because I know that there's certain Christian sects that have the similar beliefs that, like, I believe, again, I'm going to say Jehovah's Witnesses. I know that for a fact that sometimes they believe that people are not worthy of the truth. And so in that case, you are allowed to deceive them.
Well,
yeah.
Okay. I didn't know that, but if that is the case, then that's exactly pretty close to parallel to what you have in Islam.
Right.
So if somebody goes into negotiations, and I think, for example, all right, we're going to settle this land dispute. We're going to cut it down the line, and then we're going to go and have a drink together and watch a game. And the other party is saying, no, I really want it my way. And if you show me any signs of weakness, I'm going to manipulate it. Then you really don't have a mutually agreed upon goal. And that's
right.
the concern.
Or what we have in the U.S. politics. For me,
it is adversarial. This is the case. Now, it doesn't always have to be. I remember Ronald Reagan was very conservative. Tip O'Neill, the Speaker of the House, was a good old Irish Boston liberal. People loved him. And Ronald Reagan said, yeah, we dispute only until 6 o'clock, and then we go have a drink together. Both were very amiable, likable people.
And the same with Ginsburg and
Scalia, exactly. All right, well, that's a perfect Scalia. Yeah, they did that. And so you have two very powerful intellects. They see things differently. But here again, it is very clear. It's not opaque. When you are on the Supreme Court, as I understand it, you render your judgment, and then you have oral arguments. So somebody goes between them before the court, and they have oral arguments, and you make your case. Scalia would say one thing. Others would say something else. And then we, the American people, can listen to the arguments. From what I understand, it's open, it's clear, it's very visible.
For the most part. And so it's because now they're using the shadow dockets a lot. Like probably 10 times as much as they, I can't remember the exact number, because at one point I think they used the shadow docket like 66 times during this administration. And a lot of times we don't even realize they're using it, but maybe 10 times in the previous two administrations. So except for when they're doing the shadow docket, then they're pretty transparent. But
and when they're not transparent,
I just want to do one thing real quick. I just want to remind people we're talking to Dr. Mark Silinsky. The most recent book is Cauldron of Terrorism. It is available. It's I'm sorry, he's holding it up right there, and it is available. Is it Amazon? I'm trying to think of where it's
on Amazon. Yeah. So if you were to put Cauldron of Terror, Hamas-Israel in the world, you'll have all sorts of opportunities to buy it wherever.
And he has 4 other books in addition to that. He has published 5 books, and go to your library and also ask for them. If your library doesn't have it, request it. I did. Where's my library card? I just went in and requested a book from my library. They sent me an email saying we're going to get that book, and when it comes in, we'll let you know. So you can, if you can't buy the book, you can still go to your library and ask them to carry it so that other people can see it as well.
Yeah, be a pleasure. And by the way, let me throw something out. I have my own service. It's called Kensington Security Consulting. I bring education to national security. If you are a student, university student or high school student, and you have an idea on a paper for Islam and the West, you can send me an email. I will talk to you about it. I'll look over it and I'll give you some ideas. I'm here to help. And I enjoy doing it. And so you could just write me an email. Let me spell it for you. SILINSKY@yahoo.com. You'll get a response. It'll be a pleasure.
Now, I've watched a number of your videos, your podcasts, and there's one that I have. I have an issue with, only because as a humorist, I did a routine about workplace shootings, and my thing is, because I went through the trainings for the workplace shootings, and everything is aftermath.
Yep.
And so my premise. And actually, I did this in real life. Because I used to work at a company that had 1,500 employees on one shift. We had 3 shifts. And just on my shift, there was 1,500 employees. And I live in a very gun-friendly county. So I knew that chances are that statistically, 80% of those people had guns or owners of guns, based on where we live, statistically. And so I wanted to identify the mass shooter before they became the mass shooter.
Yeah.
If you've ever watched a mass shooting, you go to the news and people always had their suspicions, but they didn't act on it, or they didn't keep an eye on those people. So when I went to my job, I started asking people, I said, you just found out there's a mass shooting. Who is it? And people, there was an actual consensus. And out of the 400 or 500 people that I talked to, 2 names rose to the top of who would likely be a mass shooter, and those are the ones I kept happy. those 2 people.
I'm glad.
Yes.
Otherwise, we might not have this podcast.
Yes, those 2 people I kept happy. I checked on them all the time, made sure they had a friend, and one of them was a loner, and did not have any friends. I made sure he had somebody to talk to at lunchtime, so he didn't feel isolated. The other one, I was in a separate building, so whenever I was in his building, I'd always go to his desk. And I'd ask, how you doing? And I ask him about his family. And, I only would see him like once every 3 weeks because we're in different buildings. But to me, that's something that's missing from your profile, from your things. Like, because everything is, once there's a shooting, to me, you got to stop it before it happens. And the way you do, so that's the only thing I was going to bring up, because that's the same as like every mass shooting exercise I've been, everything is like once the shooting starts. And my thing is, let's stop the shooting from starting.
Okay, once again, you're right on the money. Let me go with that, because I've written about 2 shootings in particular.
Right.
One, my field is Islam and Western Islamic relations. There are mass shootings. I don't want to say all the time, but there are big ones. Whites are likely to be a perpetrator, but many times they are not. And in 2 cases, one in a San Bernardino a number of years back, there was a Christmas party or a holiday party, and people came. There was Santa Claus there, and they would bring pecan pie, and they would bring presents, and there was the Christmas tree or the holiday tree.
Is it the one at the UPS building?
No, this is not the UPS. That's another one.
Okay.
And that goes into another. My wife's a psychiatrist, and she, like you, absolutely agrees. You look for tells or signals. This was in San Bernardino, and you had a husband and wife came, and they didn't bring pecan pie. They brought assault weapons and firearms, and they shot everybody in the room there. Why did they do that? We know why they do, and it's important to listen to people. They did it in the name of Allah because they were Muslims, and they joined the Islamic State upon killing. Then they went on a escape, and they were shot up like Bonnie and Clyde. Sometimes it is very difficult. In that case, people could really not have known that he would be a killer. That the male of the party would be a killer. Saeed. He was angry. He hated Israel. Well, a lot of people are angry and hate Israel. They don't go around killing anybody. In this case, the response was very professional. The San Bernardino County was right on the money. In another case, Nidal Hassan, he was a army psychiatrist, a major, who went on a killing spree in the name of Allah at Fort Hood,
Right, I remember, yeah.
14, and wounded about 20 others. There was every indication that he would have gone on a rampage. He should have been court-martialed a long time before. So I, like you, look for the signs. I believe that we in the government, when I worked for the government, can do a much better job than we're doing. To have a kind of metric or to have a statistical model that'll give us those clues.
Now,
To say, look for
unfortunately,
this.
there's two things that are happening in the government because they don't want to look at statistically, people, when they do violence, statistically, usually the violence is among people in their own group. I'm going to say they're either race or where they work or something like that, statistically. So, like, it wouldn't be unusual for black on black crime to be higher than black on white crime or white on black crime, because or white on white crime to be higher. That's not unusual. As a matter of fact, it would be unusual if it were not the case. So I'm just using statistical models.
Yeah.
I mean, they're always outliers.
Now, but this is true. We know that criminality it can be racially correlated. But one thing for Attila is, you've heard the expression, he went postal. And I asked my wife, psychiatrist, what's that? Yeah. And she explained this to me. You can tell sometimes people who are put in the post offices often are antisocial or have difficulty with people. They may have this disorder, she explained, or this disorder. They will work alone at night doing simple, repetitive things where they don't have to interact with people. And that is why you have a disproportionate number of killings and homicides, or things we don't hear about, people just going berserk and biting people among the postal workers, hence going postal.
Right.
So that helps explain it. As far
and
as
that would be the case in almost any other company or industry that has a similar thing, like night watches or something like that. But just that the post office is national. It's all over the country. So you're going to have a post office in every zip code.
And also, I don't know this, but it might be something too. They may be under soft or hard pressure to hire people with disabilities. I don't know. It could be a kind of mental impairment, would certainly be a disability. And very naively, well-meaningly, they will put them there. They say, well, so-and-so, prefers to be alone.
Yeah, that's true. That's, I believe, there's no doubt that there's a good portion that is like that. Because where I used to work, we had, in the county where I used to work, we had, the Howard County Association of Retarded Citizens. That was the name of the group. Don't yell at me for the name. That was the name of it. They've probably since changed it, but I'm talking about when it first started. And so I'd be working at a retail store, and the Howard County Association of Retarded Citizens would approach the company and say, can you find a place for these 4 or 5 people? We're trying to find them jobs. They're either functionally illiterate, or they can read, or they can, and they would find a job, something that they can do within their social boundaries. So they might be in maintenance. They might be in custodial. They wouldn't put them in sales. I'm not going to say obviously, but they didn't put them in sales, but they put them someplace else. So there were groups that did that, and some companies got benefits, either tax benefits or some kind of break, when they did that.
Let me throw something that you and your audience can play with this, and this comes to the issue of profiling. There is a driving while black, and there's a huge controversy in New York and other states where people who fit the profile, that is, they were black, were disproportionately being pulled over in this. And on the one hand, you can say it reduced crime. On the other hand, you could say that's blatant discrimination. Let me put this out to you. What if you have in a work environment somebody who is aggressively Islamist or Christian? Let's say this person is a Christian, to use your term, and says, I don't want any non-believers here, or I don't trust Muslims, or I don't trust Jews. Or what if you have a Muslim say, the whole world's against me, and you're non-believers, and you hate Islam? That seems to me to be a flag that we could target a person with, and we can give them the observation that you brought up. You earlier said you want to look for signs and clues on that boat, 1,500 people. Now, on the other hand, you would be profiling that person. Can we profile people because of their religion?
Well, there's profiling and then there's acting on profiling. Okay, yeah. If I were a security guard at a bank and I saw somebody, and it's 80 degrees outside and somebody walks in with a trench coat, I may not shoot them right away, but I'm gonna keep my eye on them. So you can
what if that trench coat is a hijab or a covering?
You can, let's say, if it's something out of the unusual. But if you live, okay, for example, if you're in a bank, you have your regular customers for the most part. I mean, I go into my giant supermarket, and not a sponsor, but my wife and I go on a regular basis, sometimes 2 or 3 times a week. I recognize about 80% of the customers because I see them there all the time. And so those people I tend to ignore because I see them all the time. Now, if somebody else came in, I don't know if they're new to the neighborhood or what, I'm going to notice them. I'm immediately, but that's human nature because something is different. Something is different, I'm going to pay attention. That's human nature. That's a survival instinct. It's normal for us to pay attention to something that's different. We don't have to strike them. We don't have to arrest them. We don't have to stop them. Just notice, pay attention.
Okay, because that's a very controversial thing. We talked about the influx in the growing Muslim population. If let's say a woman walks into a bank and has most of her face covered and sunglasses on, does the manager of the bank say, "Excuse me, could you remove those sunglasses, please? And that covering, I need to, could you remove that?" Well, they wouldn't say face covering because Jews are allowed to wear yarmulkes. Men are allowed to wear hats. So dismiss that. But you could, for example, or even better yet, it would be kind of the burqa. They don't have burqas, niqab, which obscures much of the face in a woman. Niqab.
Well, what if obviously if this person is, let's say, new to the bank, like say they're there all the time, then you're used to it. This person's new, the either a bank teller, not bank teller because they're behind the thing, but the branch manager, someone could walk out and say, "Hi, I'm the branch manager. Welcome to my bank." And you are, in other words, you say you and you are, introduce yourself, and that way you engage them. You don't have to, you can probably even get a feel for them by their voice, by their handshake. That's not, again, you're welcoming them without saying, "I'm the branch manager, I'm going to watch you." So
yeah, okay, well that might resolve it. It might be that person then would say something like, "Why are you asking me these questions? You're not asking other people," and then they may be the basis of a lawsuit. There is something called law.
Yeah, but if you walk up and say, "Hi," I mean, you're the branch manager, you can welcome people, and if they do ask you that, you say, "Well, I welcome all the new customers and hope they stay new customers."
Then you have an issue resolved. Then you just take care of that. Yeah, it works out that way.
We are at this bank. We know our customers, we love our customers, and we treat them with personal respect. And we're hoping you're going to be one of our customers. I'm here to greet you. I may not greet you like this next week because you're a regular, but the next new person, I'll be out to shake their hand too.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry. Again, but that's in my idealistic world. I admit I'm somewhat idealistic because I would like to think that if the world behaved like I behaved, it'd be a better place. And so I try to set high standards for myself. I don't live up to it a lot of the times. I'm not going to lie. But I try, But we're talking about I'm sorry, you had said something. If I remember, I'll come back to it. But I was talking about the school shooting. Well, I think of it again. We're talking to Dr. Mark Silinsky. His newest book is Cauldron of Terror, and he's the author of 5 books, a podcast, and check them out. And if you're so inclined, go to your library, your local library, and request the books. There we go. So, there was, oh man, I feel awful. I should have written it down, but okay.
I'm with you.
Yeah. So, there was, I'm going to.
Well, you asked me about issues in the book that you'd like me to discuss. If you have a question, I would love to answer any question. They take priority, but I can toss out some ideas in the book.
Sure.
Please,
right. Please.
Sure. So you had this kind of slaughter that, while unfortunately it's not unique in the world, it is very rare when it's committed to Western consensual governments. People will call Israel an apartheid state. I don't believe it is. People do. I won't really deal with that. But what you had was a very well organized, effective attack of Gazans, Hamas, and stragglers come in with the intent to do as much killing as possible. When I say shoot anything that moves, it's more than that. If you had babies in carriages who were asleep who were killed. You had dogs killed. It was a slaughter fest that the West hasn't really seen since the fall of the Nazi Empire. That the Jewish community hasn't seen since then. So what happened there? Well, you had maybe at the time 1,300, 1,250 people killed. Other people now, the lingering effects of the trauma has led to suicide. You had people's whole worlds were collapsed, their children. You also had something, not only was there not any sufficient empathy, in my view, or much empathy outside of Israel in some pockets in the United States, but you had Westerners cheer on the perpetrators. That was Hamas. So literally before the blood dried up, within hours of the killing, you had on university campuses this well-coordinated acts of solidarity with Hamas, blaming Israel, the victims, and the Israelis, women, children, infants, for the attack. And these were brazen. They were shocking to many of us, and they shocked some alumni. Other people said, well, we weren't so naive. We saw something like this coming. So what this underscores is something that your audience may be interested in. That this is odd bedfellows between the leftists on campus and in society and the Democratic Socialists of America and the Islamists or the Islamo-fascists. The most puzzling thing for some of us would be Queers for Palestine. Now in Islam, but particularly
that is something ridiculous, but I'm
sorry. Very important, and it's not
Yeah.
contested.
Yeah.
On the surface, it would have been seen maybe 20 years ago as some kind of thing that a stand-up comedian would bring up.
Yes,
I think
exactly.
some people, Netanyahu said it was like chickens for Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Yes.
Something so silly, but it underscores the strength of this alliance between the Islamo-fascists and the Western left.
Now I don't know if it's because I think at that point it's like a lack of education thing and a lack of an understanding, because to me it's like when blacks voted for Donald Trump. To me, that's just like you're voting against your own interests. You know, for them to say gays for Palestine, that when they're not welcome there, it doesn't make sense. And I agree with you.
I think Joe Biden said that if you don't vote for me against Trump, that you're not black. Did I get that right? I think he said so.
Yeah, he did say that, and I'm just saying, but I'm just saying that with Joe Biden's record, he he attempted to do more for equality than Donald Trump ever did. And because Trump, again, Trump is for the ultra elite the ultra elite rich upper class, and mainly the whites first, and then anybody else who can give him money. That's his main thing. It's the grift. I'm not saying Biden was perfect, because I was not a Biden per se. He was not my favorite senator when he was a senator. His stance on the bankruptcy bill I found was abhorrent. So I'm not a Biden apologist, but I'm not going to discount what he did or what he attempted to do for people, because I don't agree with everything he did. He did say that, but people. My mother at a family gathering said, he's saying he's black, but he doesn't like macaroni and cheese. I attributed it to my mother being 77 years old, because when she was 50, she would not have said that. And Biden was probably 78 or 79 when he said that. And so there's some things I hear, and maybe I'm being an ageist when I say it, but if I hear somebody of a certain age say something, I'm like, okay. I used to work with a guy. He was 77 years old, and when an older Jewish guy, and he was 77. I was 54 at the time, and when he first met me, he didn't learn my name. He used to call me boy. And when the first time he said that, I thought to myself, okay, let's figure this out. But it was only the two of us around, and the other person, well, there's a third person who introduced us. The other person he already knew. So, and I said to my wife, I said, there's a guy who just started coming, he calls me boy. And she asked me if I was going to do it. I said, I'm going to wait to see, because it may not mean anything to him. It may not mean the same thing to him that it does to me. And it turns out a white guy, the same age as me, walked into the room and he says, excuse me, boy. And to him, anybody under 60 was a boy. And once he learned my name, he called me by my name. Yeah. And so it was just, I had to put it in context and give it a little bit of time to see where he's going with this. Because not every time go ahead.
I would not call a black over the age of 6 months old a boy, but we know today. But here again, your approach, I think, was very positive. Instead, you assumed kind of that there's some confusion. Before I make any accusations, I'm going to hear this out, and you resolve this very cooperatively. I have to tell you one thing, though, that this is a tactic that some of the organizations we have in the United States, Students for Justice in Palestine, or some of the congresswomen use to say this: if you have any criticism about Islam, you are an Islamophobe.
And they're a little bit, and they're overstating it, because you can have criticisms and not be.
They're doing it direct. They're doing it dishonestly and intentionally,
right?
Because they understand something that you brought up now. They understand the idiosyncrasies, the foibles of American society. We're very, very sensitive to certain things.
Yeah, even racists don't want to be called a racist.
Yeah, exactly. So you would avoid calling. They understand this, and they understand that when you hurl the accusations about being a bigot, it'll sting, and it puts people immediately on the defensive, and it changes the argument. The argument wasn't something, hey, you did this and this. The argument now is defending yourself against charges of racial bigotry or Islamophobia. So it's a tactic they have developed by understanding issues, just as you brought up.
Yeah, and most good politicians don't get to be good politicians. Not that there's, when I say a good politician, I don't think politicians themselves are good. I separate politicians from civil servants. Civil servants are the ones that do the work for the people because they realize they work for the people. Politicians somehow manage to make a little bit for themselves first, and then if the people benefit, that's fine. So, but if you're good at being a politician, you know how to manipulate people like that, and to put them on the defensive, and to call them something before they can get a chance to call you that. But okay, now I know this is like a complete turnaround, but during the attacks on Israel by Hamas on October 7th, As horrific as that was, I am a firm believer that Netanyahu exploited that and for his own benefit. In other words, I believe like Israel should have retaliated. But I think if you look at the evidence as I understand it, one thing, Netanyahu was on his back heels with the Supreme Court. He was trying to fix the Supreme Court. He was bound to be investigated for corruption and things of that nature. So he needed a war, just like George Bush needed a war. Like we have our wartime presidents. Netanyahu is no different in that regard as a politician. He was helping to fund Hamas secretly behind closed doors. At least that's the way it's reported. So Netanyahu bears some kind of guilt because he could have stopped this from happening. And then thousands of Jews and thousands of thousands of Muslims would be alive today if he had just stopped it and prevented it, as opposed to allow it to happen so that he'd have his war.
Right. Let me touch on a few things. That the idea is that Netanyahu or the Israeli government was in any way complicit in Hamas. When you go back to 1987 or so, there was an election, a free, fair, and contested election between the Palestinian Authority and Hamas.
Right.
Hamas
and they
won.
chose bad. They chose poorly.
Yeah.
Okay.
At that point, Israel really had no opportunity. Israel could not then say, well, you guys made the wrong choice, and so we're going to overthrow you. They would have been found out. It wouldn't have worked. It would have no credibility. They would have gotten a lot of hell for it at home, particularly among the Israeli progressives. So
right. And part of Hamas's edict is that Israel shouldn't exist. That was
never
part
changed.
That was part of their DNA, I guess. If Hamas has a DNA, part of it says Israel does not have the right to exist.
Well, it is DNA, and I like your term there, your metaphor, because it's very apt. DNA is something that builds the system. Without DNA, you don't have life, and without that main central objective, you don't have Hamas. You may have you'll have something else.
Right.
But you don't have Hamas because
there's always some other group. There's always going to be a group that doesn't believe Israel has the right to exist. Right. And that group may not be Hamas today. It may be some other group tomorrow if Hamas is ever defeated.
See this too. I think you have in this country too. If you listen to Hassan Piker, if you listen to many people, if you listen to Students for Justice in Palestine, so there are legions of people on the left of the political spectrum and increasingly on the right of the. I'm concerned about Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens. I don't know what happened to her, but other people too. So it's really across the political spectrum, and it crosses different religions, and so I'm concerned about.
There's a saying that I learned about politics. When it comes to politics, there are no permanent friends. There are no permanent enemies. There are only permanent interests.
I forgot who said that. It was
I know the first person I heard it from was a guy named Joe Madison, who was a disc jockey, a political commentator. But he heard it from someone else. He never claimed it, but I just forgot who he said. So I got it from him, and he got it from someone else.
Yeah, it's a good. Might have been Talleyrand, Metternich, or one of those old Europeans. And I think there's wisdom there. There are no friends. But here again, let's look about this. If you define your reason to exist as a political religious organization as the destruction of another state, then that other state will see you as a permanent enemy. Now, you could say, wait a minute, if they change the Constitution, they made some cosmetics in 2017. Instead of bringing in the Freemasons and actually killing Jews and blood libel and things like that, they toned it down. But the goal never ever changed. So you would have in that case a permanent enemy, permanent until effectively Hamas disbands. But as generally that is the case, no permanent enemies, permanent. there are no permanent friends, and think you see this now with American relations with many European states.
Right.
They're not as friendly as we thought they were. But in any case,
we screwed them over first. Let's be honest. It's not that they're not as friendly as they thought, because they keep trying to give us chances, and they're like trying to find excuses. But they know that with the current administration, they're kind of screwed, and they're on their own. They can't trust him. They know they can't trust this administration because they'll. Rubio will say one thing, and then Bessent will say something else, and then Hegseth will say something else, and then Trump will say it all, and then nothing. They just don't know what to just. But there was a saying that said, "Show me your budget, and I'll show you your priorities."
Well, that is what effectively Donald Trump says. The European states are under greater scrutiny, meaningful scrutiny than before. So you had a pattern. I don't want to delve too far from the Middle East, but there was perceived that you had a pattern that the Europeans would say they're going to increase, build their militaries, what have you.
Right.
Donald Trump determined then to attack and destroy finally Iran's nuclear capability sites.
He said he did. Okay, but he didn't. Because he keeps saying every week, he says we destroyed, we've obliterated, but we have to keep destroying and obliterating. So we know that whatever he's claiming he's done in Iran, we know he hasn't done, except for the fact that he's killed. We know one thing we know for certain: he's killed thousands of people, unnecessarily.
No, he did kill a lot of people unnecessarily. I think reasonable men and women can dispute that. You had 7 successive presidential administrations claiming that Iran will not get nuclear weapons.
Right, and you can go back that far, but they had an accord. Obama had an agreement with them. It may not have been perfect, but it was working. We had inspectors. Okay, and when Trump came into office, he trashed it, mainly because anything Obama did was bad. Okay, instead of looking on a case-by-case basis, Obama bad, anything he did was bad. I'm just going to say this out front for anybody who has any misconceptions about where I lie. Trump is an idiot. He does idiot things.
Right. Let me go back earlier on your show. I used the word Kia, or that is deception.
Right.
In Iran, in particular, because Shia were traditionally minorities under Sunni rule, and therefore they had to use deception to pass themselves off as Sunni, because otherwise they get in trouble as being Shia. Right. So they did this. I put it to you that Iran's goal is to deceive and to postpone and deceive and postpone. Meanwhile, build and build and build nuclear weapons until it's a fait accompli, and there's a mushroom cloud proving it. And now, what are you going to do now? It's like North Korea. They have the bombs. Try taking them out. At that moment, Iran will become one of the most powerful countries in the world, be more powerful than any country in Europe except for France, except for Britain, who have nuclear weapons. It will change the world, and I believe not for the better. So because Iranians have an apocalyptic vision, they certainly will consider using and may use nuclear weapons.
I agree with you that is likely, because again, they believe that there are certain aspects of our society that should not exist. Jews being among them, and they have their little groups, military groups. Can't remember the proper name for them, like Hezbollah and so forth. It would
be called the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the IRGC.
Yeah, they're groups that aren't part of the official government, but they're funded by the government. Just like we have our militia and we have our like X or G. I'm sorry, G and Blackwater. Well, they're not Blackwater anymore, but we have those groups. They have theirs. But with Iran, and this is, if Trump is really concerned about these things, one of Iran's major allies is Russia. And Trump kisses up to Russia like nobody's business. I mean, almost like Putin has honey on his ass and Trump is a bee trying to feed a hive. That's how Trump is with Putin. If he is serious about stopping Iran from getting a weapon, okay, don't kiss up to Putin. Put the pressure on him, okay, instead of kissing up to them. So, but Trump just wants to be a wartime president, and he needed something to attack. He attacked Venezuela. He's threatening Greenland. He threatened Cuba. He just wants to be a wartime president. He's not doing it because that's why the excuses always change as to why he was in Iran. Until he found something that stuck. We need to change the regime. We need to do this. We need to do that. And it was like a different excuse until he found something that people could repeat with conviction. So even if he's doing the right thing, he's doing it for the wrong reason. So even if he was trying to get rid of, and he was not trying to neutralize Iran for any noble reason other than the fact that he just wanted to bomb shit. That's it.
Well, okay.
Look at this, yeah. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Many people agree with that. I do see it differently. I think that he felt, and I think this is very important, that he could destroy or at least severely set back the nuclear program. Let's go back a little bit in history.
But I don't think he ever thought that. I think his people thought that. He doesn't have the capacity for himself or for others to think that far ahead like that. That's why he didn't have a story. If that's what he believed, that's what he would have been. If my wife asked me, why did I want the car that I have? I don't start off with, well, the tires are better than the other car. No, because that car is expensive. Why that car? I have to have a reason. I can't go through just go through reason after reason after reason until I find something my wife likes. And then I say, well, you look good in the passenger seat. And then she says, oh, okay, that's why you bought the car. And that's what Trump did. Trump's like, well, we did it because of this. They needed regime change. Really? Regime change? And how's that going along? We did it to open the Strait of Hormuz. Well, it wasn't closed before he struck them. So the man is... So
we did not have that. But here, okay. Then on this, once again, we have to agree to disagree. I think that it was absolutely essential to destroy those sites. There was no.
Well, I'm not saying it wasn't essential. I'm saying that wasn't his plan. He didn't care about that. He just needed a war.
I don't know that. I won't say that the answer is wrong. I think that all politicians will use events that favor their positions, and if he uses this, although I don't know if this does help him, it may not have gone as planned, but I don't know if it does help him. When we go to the midterms, it seems to me that this is now becoming an unpopular war.
But he doesn't care. He doesn't care about the midterms because he doesn't think it's going to make a difference. That's why he's trying to rig elections. That's why he's trying to make the post office so that people if they don't have a list of eligible voters, they're not going to send out ballots. He's trying to rig the election. It's not that he doesn't care about democracy. He doesn't care about the vote. He cares about staying in power, getting rich. That's it. Now, the people who got him in power, they care about blowing up Iran. They care about oil in Venezuela because that's what they need. He doesn't care. That's why he doesn't have a reasoning for it. You're a professor. You know when your students are bullshitting you. You can look at one of your students and you say, "Where's your homework?" And you go like, "My dog ate it." It says, "You don't have a dog. Your mother has allergies."
No, I would certainly agree. Universities are filled with BS. There's no shortage of that there. Okay, well, I hear, and I don't know what was in the mind of Donald Trump. It could have been that he saw that as a very real challenge. He was persuaded by his team in the National Security Council and his advisors in the State Department. It could have come for none of that. He just saw this as a way to maybe boost his image as a war president. It could have been that he thought that this was something necessary to do, and he will use the circumstance and the outcomes of that to promote his legacy.
It would be like if I were a pyromaniac, but I'm on probation because I know the fire department's watching me because they know I'm a pyromaniac. and which Trump knows he's being watched because everybody knows he's a thief and a grifter. So he knows he's being watched, so he's got to have distractions. But I'm still a pyromaniac. So now I want a torch so I can burn the weeds in my yard. I mean, that's not going to satisfy every itch, but I'll get to see the fire and I'll get to smell things burn. And in the meantime, I'm getting rid of the weeds in my driveway. So that's a good thing. And my neighbors from a distance go, look, he's finally getting rid of the weeds in his driveway. And for me, it's just I'm scratching an itch. I got to burn stuff. And that's what Trump is for me. He's like, he's got an itch. He's got to scratch it. He's got to grift. He's got to steal. He's got to blow shit up. He likes chaos. He loves chaos. It's in his DNA. That's why he likes to have his people fighting amongst each other instead of cooperating with each other. You know, it doesn't take a rocket science to see it. It just takes willingness to understand that's what he's doing and acceptance, and then knowing that we can do something about it. And because everybody can do something, you just need to do it. Like I said, as a professor, I'm sure if you apply the same standards to Trump and his administration as you would to a student trying to get out of doing his homework, it probably, or looking at your kids trying to figure out which kid did the damage in the room when you have 4 kids. It's like, okay, we can figure this out. Which kid is too tall? Which kid is too small? Which kid can't do this? Which one is likely to do it? You can kind of figure it out. Even if you don't have the kid's confession, you can eventually say, okay, I know which kid did it. I'll go about proving it.
No, professors are called, as you said, to judge students and to assign to them some kind of grade. It seems to me that history will come into play because the American people and historians will judge the legacy of Donald Trump, particularly in the Middle, including his legacy in the Middle East. And it may be that they'll align with your position. It may be they'll align with a different position.
As long as they can get their hands on information, because that's the other thing that they're very good at is hiding information, trying to burn the money trails, trying to keep things off books so the conversations are not recorded or repeated. It's like Trump will meet with Putin and not have his people listen, but Putin's people are listening. And so that's what gives them leverage. Trump says something stupid and he says, I had a very productive meeting with Putin. We've talked about a lot of things and we discussed it and a lot of good things that come from it. And then Putin has his recording that says, we bent Trump over that side of that desk and fucked him like nobody's business. But we're not going to put that out there. We're just going to let Trump know we have this tape. See, Trump is doing himself a disservice by not keeping a track of these things, because sometimes it may exonerate him. Because I'm not saying that everything he does is criminal. Just almost everything he does deliberately is criminal. Some things I think he does good things by accident, maybe. I'm not sure which ones yet. I'm still looking. But I am looking. I want to give him the benefit of the doubt only because he's the wannabe president. You know? Well, so
do you have any other questions of me regarding my book or the Middle East or?
I just want to go ahead and encourage people to check out your books, all 5 of them.
Thank you.
They're available on Amazon. It is Dr. Mark Silinsky. I did want to ask you, I'm sorry, because we're about to run out of time. The show ends in a few minutes. But you made a reference to Sir Hammond. No, Sir, I'll find it. You probably already know who he is. Southern California Master's degree.
Michael Howard?
Sir Michael? Yes, Sir Michael Howard. Who was he? Who was Sir Michael Howard?
Sure, it was my honor. I did my master's of philosophy and international relations at Oxford University.
Okay.
And Sir Michael Howard is one of the greatest military historians of the 20th century, or any other. He shone very brightly in not only British circles, but virtually everybody who enjoys military history, particularly European military history, would know him. Right. He was a very wise man, and it was my honor to have him as my supervisor there. He guided me and helped prepare me for a career in defense intelligence in what's now the Department of War. He wrote a number of books, but he understood what was important in things, what was important in a war, what was important in the minds of the leaders. And by helping me to understand the importance of things, I think he helped enrich my life and certainly the intellects of millions and millions of other people.
Okay, that's cool. I was just curious because I didn't get a chance to research. I wanted to look it up so I could find out. First of all, the fact that he had a sir in front of his name. Because like in the U.S., you can name your kid sir. But in other parts of the world, let's say in England, if you have a sir, it's because you were knighted. And so I was just curious, like sir and damn. But here you can just name your kid sir, king, your royal highness, and it doesn't matter. So
I guess what's the routine then? You kneel before, in this case, it would have been the queen, and she takes a sword and I think taps you on your shoulder.
Yes.
And in this case, she would have said, and here I paraphrase, "Arise, Sir Michael."
Yes, exactly. And then they give you a pay raise, and you get all these benefits. Like you can go to you can get free Bubble and Squeak for the rest of your life. No,
I like that.
Dr. Silinsky, thank you so much for being
my
here.
Pleasure. Thank you.
I hope, and you're welcome to come back.
I'd be honored.
And so again, everyone, the author is Dr. Mark Silinsky. The most recent book is Cauldron of Terrorism. He has 4 other books. Feel free to check them out. They're available on Amazon, and go to your library and request them as well. And thank you so much, Dr. Silinsky. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Bye now.
Bye.
Okay, everybody. We're about to wrap this show up. That was Dr. Mark Silinsky, author of The Cauldron of Terrorism. I hope you enjoyed our discussion. And I know I'm going to get some emails about saying, "GD, you didn't let him talk," and I apologize if you feel that way. I'm hoping that there was a good discussion there, and that people got a chance to learn something and also take something away, give them something to discuss and think about, because we're in a world where there's 8 billion people on this planet, but it's only one planet. And if one group loses it, we all lose it. Okay, it's not like if North America goes, there's still going to be in Africa and Asia and Europe. No, if Europe goes, we're in this together. We need to take care of each other, and we need to look out for each other, not be so selfish. But of course, that's me and my idealistic world. And I could go outside and tonight, and somebody hit me in the head with a stick because screw you and your optimism. But if I'm not an optimist, I might as well not stick around, right? We got to hope for the best. So let's everybody change the world for the better. Everybody can do something, and find out what you can do and do it. All right. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. And that's not how I usually end this. Must be a mistake, right? Who is that? Who is that guy with the dreadlocks? What did you do with G.D. Fenderson? And can we get him back? I'm sure nobody said that. I never did. I'm sorry. I started trying to finish the video for this. This must be a mistake. I didn't finish it. I'm a busy man. I know I look like I don't get much done, but I probably don't get enough done. But I didn't finish the video, but I'm going to play the song anyway because I like the song, and it's one of the few songs of mine that I can play and not get a copyright strike. So thank you so much for listening. And this must be a mistake from the CD, from the 1996 CD. This CD is called Volatile Cocktail. Enjoy.
Be say you don't want me to leave. This must be a mistake. Well, I just don't know what to believe. This must be a mistake. You don't want me around, you're thinking so much better. Once you get to know this man, you'll want us back together. I give all my heart to you, how much more can I take? But you're wanting someone new, this must be a mistake. This must be a mistake. This must be a mistake. You know you're hurting us. This must be a mistake. You want to break our trust. This must be a mistake. Well, have you forgotten what we meant? This must be a mistake. There's no time to find lost sentiment. This must be a mistake. You don't want me around, you're thinking so much better. Once you get to know this man, you'll want us back together. I give all my heart to you, how much more can I take? If you want someone new, this must be a mistake. Think about this and me. This must be a mistake. Losing you would be obscene. This must be a mistake. Well, it's hard to make this quantum leap. This must be a mistake. Yeah, but what we sow is what we reap. This must be a mistake. You don't want me around, you're thinking so much better. Once you get to know this man, you'll want us back together. I give all my heart to you, how much more can I take? If you want someone new, this must be a mistake. This doesn't seem so very smart. Must we go our ways? Because we're making both our lives a waste of yesterdays. Misguided by our own self-worth and take our work away. So tell me, this must be a mistake. 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 I said now this must be a mistake. I said now this must be a mistake. This must be a mistake. This must be a mistake. I said this must be a mistake. I said this must be a mistake. Be a mistake. You're right.
Oh, you're still here. I have to be here. I have to end the stream. I have to stop it. But thank you. I hope you enjoyed the show. Check out the book, Cauldron of Terrorism, and it's 4 other books. The author is Dr. Michael Silinsky. Thank you very much. Dr. Mark Silinsky. Thank you very much for being part of the show. And I thank you guys for being part of the show as well. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you tomorrow where our guests will be. I have no idea. Oh, no guests. Well, we do have a top 10 list. I can't remember what it is. It was my idea. I just don't remember what it was. It may have been the top 10 worst theme songs for movies or something, or maybe the top 10 best theme songs for movies. I can't remember. But it'd be myself and Matt, and maybe Ron will pop in. We'll see. And don't forget to check us out on Sunday mornings, 9 a.m. Eastern Time, the Church of Last Resort, Dr. Reverend Jelly Roll. He will be talking about, well, obviously he'll be doing celebrity deaths, but also in Looking for God in All the Wrong Places, he will be discussing the lyrics to Sympathy for the Devil by the Rolling Stones. Thank you very much. Take care.